5 southern African nations are planning to start the first ever aerial survey of an area larger than California, where more than half of the world's African elephants live. This is to get more accurate ideas of the wildlife numbers. The survey, using fixed-wing aircraft of the Kanvago Zambezi Transfrontier Conservation Area, which includes the Okavango Delta in Botswana and Victoria Falls that lies between Zimbabwe and Zambia, is a step to help the countries better manage, I guess, the animals. Nyambe Yambe, the executive director of the zone known as CASA, said that Namibia and Angola will also participate. But will this work? We're going to talk to Joseph Kafunda, operational manager, Rafiki Tours and Safari, who is in Namibia, joins us now to discuss this. Joseph, you're very welcome. Thank you so much for joining us on The Exchange. What took so long in getting aerial surveillance for wildlife in the southern African region?
Good evening, everybody. I think the delay, it's coming from funds. We did not have funds. And also we have to look at the technology that we are using currently. It's an updated technology. So those were some of the delay that we had to take so long in order to consider surveillance as an important key when it comes to wildlife preventions.
And I know we just went through some of those points, but is there a key initiative that this surveillance wants to achieve?
Definitely. We are talking of rights to properties. We are talking about African producing their own data instead of waiting for someone to give us data. I think this surveillance it's a beginning of an achievement of what CASA it's all about. And for me personally, I'm in support of it. And if they ask me to participate in this kind of surveillance, I'll definitely give my all 100% so that we can have that collective data that it's been collected and been done by Africans themselves.
Any other ways technology can improve park operations?
Definitely, I believe we will tackle one question with two questions with one answer, because surveillance now, when we talk about surveillance technology, we look at how can we be able to protect our wildlife that has been poached by people. So with this type of surveillance, it's give us an aerial view of who is coming in the park and who is going out of the park. Doesn't matter from which angle we look at it, because it's going to be 360-degree surveillance that is going to be provided. So for me, it's protecting and providing accurate information of wildlife movements, at the same time tackling the problem or the issues that we have for so long.
Great stuff. Now, we were discussing Europe in the earlier segments and how they're relaxing travel restrictions for EU visitors. How has the pandemic affected wildlife tourism where you are in the southern African region?
To be honest, for everything to work, we have to know that the custodian of most of the national parks are government. So government need donors, need funds, and need those entrance fees that are being paid so that they can maintain the park. A park has different type of segmentations. We have the park management, we have the surveillance, we have the water or the anti-poaching units and all those kind of things. And all those people, they rely on that park fee. So if we do not have visitors, how is the government going to outsource the funds? So I believe with the releasing of the restriction in Europe has a very positive impact on our wildlife, because they are also been a little bit tired of being on a forced retirement, let me say. They haven't seen that much of the vehicle like they used to see. They haven't been taken good shots as they used to be. So they will be like, wow, okay, restrictions have been relieved, good for the park, good for the animals as well, because they need to see that little movements. It's what comes with the protection. Because if you don't see the same lion that you used to see, you'll be wondering and asking yourself questions. What happened to this lion? Is it being poached or is it still alive? So I think this is an opportunity for us that we have been waiting for.
Great stuff. So you've talked about funding issues. Is that why Zimbabwe was in the news about, planning to sell the rights to shoot elephants for up to $70,000 per animal?
The case of Zimbabwe, we have first to look at the background of the country. Zimbabwe is the second country in southern Africa with the largest population of elephants after the Botswana in the Chobe National Park. Botswana has more than 200 elephants roaming around there. Zimbabwe, we are talking about 150 to 170. It's put a lot of pressure on resources for food. We are talking about sustainability nowadays. How can we be able to sustain something so that the future can be able to see it? And we have to look at the endemic trees that elephants normally destroy. So we have to look at the positive side of it. It's to maintain the balance between nature and the wildlife. We know they were there before us. They were maintaining themselves. But we have come with disease control. We have come with veterinaries that are maintaining to make sure that the animals stay alive and stay safe. But now we have this pandemic that comes, no income for the park, no income for the government to maintain and to make sure that all those balance, it's been there. So I think for Zimbabwean to sell an elephant, they have considered all the pros and the cons of selling such an animal. So they're not just doing it out of the ordinary or out of the blue. Namibia, we are not safe at all. We are also looking at how can we be able to do with some of our ruminant animals. So it's a different case of balancing natures.
All right. So here's a suggestion for you, Joseph. What about raising gate fees to the parks to raise revenue?
Okay, the suggestion is very good. But at the same time, we have to look at how affected as the pandemic have left people's pockets. Because, for instance, we are talking about in case of Southern Africa. With the release of measurements or travel measurements in Europe and elsewhere in the world, it might assist the government. And if we don't get that by July, then we have a big issues ahead of us. Because locals, when you increase the prices, you have to understand that many of the locals, while they were working, most of them, their salary has been cut into half. Because we want to keep them working, so meaning the salary has to be cut in half. That means it has already put restriction and restraint on their expenditure or daily expenditures. And now you increase your park fee. I do understand that Southern Africa, it's the most cheapest when it's come to park fee in the whole entire Africa. So I think increasing the prices now with the pandemic, it might not be the solution that each and every park needs. We need to reconsider. We need to look at the blueprint. We need to outsource some way of getting funds so that we can maintain what is within the national parks.
Joseph Kafunda, Operational Manager, Rafiki Tours and Safaris. I wish you the best of luck. It's not easy, as far as this business is concerned with how the pandemic has just, wreaked havoc across the African continent. Thank you so much for joining us on The Exchange. Really appreciate your insights. And we'll have you back. We'll see how things do, I guess, on the following quarter. Thank you, Joseph.